Satnam, good evening everyone. Welcome to another Mother's Journey talk. This is our talk number 5, and the topic for today is conscious Cesarean section. This is the means by which many babies these days are born into this world by abdominal surgery, high tech. These talks are snippets of the program of the Mother's Journey, which is a pregnancy and postnatal yoga teacher training program. The partnership is founded by myself and Elena O'Keefe, and we have a team of 9 other trainers who collaborate with us to put together this program, which has now switched on to online mode. Anyway, my name is Satya Kaur, and I was a midwife for about 9 years. I've been practicing yoga, Kundalini yoga, for nearly 40 years, and now I combine these two bodies of experience and knowledge to introduce to you some topics related to maternity, but including the spiritual dimension, which is not often done overtly. And here we are. I'm using science, I'm using on my own experience and that of other women I've come across, and also the teachings of yoga and Eastern philosophy. The idea of these talks is that you, the listener, the viewer, consider some aspects of what's going on in the maternity world and the experience of many women, which maybe not be the most satisfying, not the most holistic, and some of them downright abusive of women and babies' rights. So this topic of Cesarean section, the idea is to share with you some knowledge, because we know that knowledge is power. And therefore, if, like Luisa Condesso says, if you don't know your choices, you have no choice. Before we talk about individual experience of Cesarean and the choices that any mother woman can make, I'd like to talk about the consciousness of the collective. And for this, let's look at the figures that are available to us. We know, for example, that in the 60s and still in the 70s, in some communities, for example, Ina May Gaskin, who was a famous midwife, and from that time, she's author of at least I know a couple of books, including Spiritual Midwifery. She reports that in her community, which is not a low-risk community, the incidence of Cesarean section or the need for abdominal surgery for the delivery of baby was 2 or 3%. They managed, they had the skills, they had the rapport with the women, they had the collaboration of a general practitioner, and they managed to have success in the delivery of difficult babies, twins, breached babies, etc. Nowadays, that knowledge is largely lost, and we resort to Cesarean section to deliver babies. The rates of Cesarean section are epidemic, meaning nearly 2/3 of all babies are born through surgery. Well, the body of the woman is perfectly equipped to give birth naturally, and babies can withstand all kinds of squeezes and stresses during the birth. But we live in a society where fear predominates and money rules, so Caesarean section is the norm, not the majority still in most cases. Let's look at the figures. For example, here in Portugal, where I live, we know that in public hospitals the incidence of Caesarean is about 27%, and in private hospitals is double that, over 50%. We know the World Health Organization since 1985 recommended that the rate should not be above 15%, 10%, 10 to 12% when I trained in the 90s. But we know there's differences between countries, so it's nothing to do with the women, and it's nothing to do with even public health. We know that where women are more educated, more autonomous, more emancipated, they exercise their rights, and they are more respected, such as famously the Northern European countries, Finland, Holland, Iceland. In those countries the Caesarean rate is lowest, is around 15%, 17%, and in other countries there are more where I don't know the reasons why, I don't want to guess, but for example in Brazil the rates of Caesarean section are very high, 36% in the public arena and about 92% in the private sector. So what does this tell us? It's something to do with our knowledge, something to do with our rights, and something to do with the support that we get. So what is supposed to be a life-saving procedure and a blessing that saves lives of mothers and babies on very occasional basis is now the norm, and I know that many women are subject to Caesarean section without proper information and without given full choice and full knowledge of what is going on and what are her options. If you don't want to go through Caesarean section, you do have to prepare yourself. You have to equip yourself with the knowledge, with the right support, and you do have to get to know your body better through the yoga practice. We do, through the meditations, we do get in touch with what are the limits of our body, how we can use the breath and use it as tools, and the fear in women abates. And when they're less fearful, they're more likely to make rational choices rather than choices based on fear. But anyway, it's not for me or anybody to tell any woman what she should do. It has to be her choice. And this trend that we are observing of increasing incidence of Caesarean affecting the lives of so many and the health of so many women and babies, not always for the worse. I will say again that in very occasional basis, a Caesarean is a lifesaver and a blessing, but it's not the vast majority of cases. So it's got to be those women who feel they've been hard done by the system, those women who feel that they're discontent with the way they were treated and the way they were not respected. They have to raise their voices and bring about a change in the system. I want to empower women through this program of the Mother's Journey to be all they can be and be free and express themselves and be respected, assert themselves. So there's two types of Caesarean sections. Let's differentiate here. There's elective Caesarean sections. It's Caesarean sections which, for whatever reason, whether it is to fear and anxiety and the choice of women that for some reason she has an inkling she can't go through a normal birth and she should think twice and 10 times before she makes their choice, but let's say she makes their choice, or because of diagnostic tests it's been highly recommended to safeguard the health of or the life of the baby or her own. There are some rare indications, but let's say that's the case and a Caesarean section is planned. That's an elective Caesarean. The other type of Caesareans is what we call emergency Caesareans, which are decided upon once the birth is already occurring, the labor is taking place, and there's some strong deviations from the normal, which makes us consider this is a very high risk and there's something going quite wrong here, and a decision is made at the moment. Even at that time, even in the case of what we call emergency Caesareans, the emergency is rarely utter emergency. It's more like we're not dealing with this well. We, medics, professionals, are not confident with what's going on here and suggest it. So there's room for the advocate of the woman who's her support in the labor. There's room for her to negotiate time and space. Can I try different positions? Can I try different movements that allow me to feel differently, allow my baby to negotiate the birth canal? Seems like there's no internet.
No, yeah.
It's okay. Anyway, I proceed. Some technical problems as usual. So the woman and her partner, her support, do have room for negotiation before we go straight to theatre, because there's some deviation from the norm. I speak this from my clinical experience. But on this talk, I would like to concentrate more on elective Caesareans, those Caesarean sections which are planned in advance and justified for some reason. There's in your birth plan, in your notes, you need to sit down, don't talk it lightly, get their attention, their name, their signature. Really, this counts. Verbal things that you said in passing, they don't count. Records, medical records are very important. So I'm talking about I was disconnected through the Facebook and now we got connected again, that's good. What else can you do in preparing yourself to face a Caesarean? It's important, if you fully believe or you fully know that this is the only way forward for a safe and live delivery of your baby, then you're going to tell your baby, have established a communication that this is what has to be, nothing else seems possible. You really don't know what else you can do for your baby, so communicate that and describe what you're going to go through. Have the doctor describe, or the midwife or the nurse describe to you what you will undergo, and tell your baby that this is going to be right, so that every step of the way of the process leading to the birth of your baby, you are conscious, you are present, and you fully decide this and you choose it. Okay? Let yourself not be a victim. Even if you decide, for example, and it seems to be not the best choice, but let's say you decide, or you have to undergo general anesthesia, have your partner present and cover for you where you're not really present and capable of receiving your baby. Do you understand? I know that these times of pandemic and fear of the coronavirus infections in hospitals, that the protocols are tighter and the presence of partners and birth support is restricted. That's a great shame. But this leads me to, and leads you to consider that when you go into unknown, like facing birth, either through Cesarean or through vaginal birth that you project, there's always an element of the unknown. Not everything is under your control. And there's something to be said for ultimately surrendering to what might be. And when you surrender your controls and your will and your wishes and your decisions, then you have to call upon something higher, or you do well to call upon something higher. And if you are aware that there's many dimensions to the human being, not just material, physical, and mental, but we also have a spiritual dimension, call on those dimensions to assist you and intervene and guide you through this challenging time. So, apart from prayer, which you would do when you call on higher dimensions, and you can use your language, there's also, you can prepare yourself mentally so that you agree to what you go through, and you make the most of it. So, for example, positive affirmations are something that you can do through the pregnancy, in preparation and training for the day, especially late pregnancy. Positive affirmations like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for example, occurs to me an affirmation from the yogic mantras that I am thine in mind myself, Waheguru. Then Hamiham Tumitum, that means we are we and thou art thou, Waheguru. This is a good affirmation. I am thine in mind myself, Waheguru. Waheguru is an expression of wonder. Hamiham Tumitum, that means we are we and thou art thou, Waheguru. But other affirmations, such as in English, let's think, you can choose your own. There's no correct or incorrect. It should be in the positive. It shouldn't be in the negative. That's an important aspect of writing or creating affirmations. Like, I'm doing the best that I can, and I can't do any better, because if I could, I would. I'm doing the best I can. I cannot do any better, because if I could, I would. And let that affirmation accompany you. Mantras are also a great choice, and in Kundalini Yoga we have many mantras to choose from. They're always mind expanding. They're always lofty and uplifting. So my own personal favorite mantra is Guru Guru Waheguru, Guru Ramdas Guru, calling upon Guru Ramdas, a great universal servant, to be here and guide me. But there's many others. So what else? When we're talking about conscious Caesarean, I think my main message is that you be present, conscious and aware of your experience. You choose it, you don't have doubts, you embark on it and face it in full awareness. This reminds me of a quote by Yogi Bhajan, master of Kundalini Yoga and my spiritual teacher. And as a quote of his that I really like, which goes, it's not the life that matters, it's the courage you bring to it. This can be an affirmation for yourself. It's not the life that matters, it's the courage you face it with. So you can meditate on the meaning of this sentence. So you could face the prospect of giving birth through Cesarean and having your body subject to all that it entails, or you can know that all kinds of things can be done to your body, but you choose, you're present, and you believe in life, and you believe in what is life-saving, and go into it with that attitude. It can make all the difference afterwards. Because if you feel that you've been hard done by and mistreated, you will feel like a victim, and the whole experience can be traumatic, and you have to recover from that trauma where there's a split in you. Part of you was present and part of you just disassociated because couldn't collaborate with that reality. Do you understand? And there's a healing to happen afterwards, to bring back the part of you that distanced itself to come back. So if you can face it in a very holistic, conscious way, it's good news for everyone. Okay, so I know that I got disconnected at some point through the Facebook. I got disconnected at some point from the Instagram. This technology makes me feel like helpless. I don't know what you missed at the beginning. I don't know what you missed later in the talk. Difficult to repeat it all again. I've just told you now the crux of the matter. I was saying at the beginning that the collective consciousness comes into the equation. You know, there's currently, or for the last few decades, the last 3 decades, we've seen a tremendous increase on the incidence of Caesarean section. This is related to interests that are not our interest or the interest of our baby. It's ruled, there's a resorting to Caesarean section by medical teams and health professionals is because there's a lack of confidence in nature and the natural process, and there's a lack of skills and lack of intuition in dealing with the process. That's from a collective level. This lack of confidence and this insecurity and fear is instilled in us women as individuals, and then we are very fearful and we act irrationally when we are fearful. And therefore we buy what is sold to us, and Caesarean section is supposed to be safer. It is in fact not necessarily safer except in very extreme circumstances where it is life-saving. Because there's risks associated with any major surgery. I don't want to put you off. If that is your choice, then think about it twice and talk to doulas, talk to yoga teachers, talk to other women who maybe give you support and can help you think outside the box or be there for you even at the time. Facing the birth and the labor does require training, mental training, physical training. Yoga and meditation techniques are excellent in putting you in touch with your own body, your limits, and the tools that will help you when your body is challenged with very strong sensations. But you should believe in your capacity to give birth. Your body as a woman, your physiology is geared to make it happen, is a normal, natural function. What's happening? I like to support women whatever choice they make. I'm not in her shoes. I can't decide for herself. I can only present you the options which maybe you don't know you have. So there's a gift associated with this talk. Is an article written by a friend and colleague, Kaur, and it's an article written about her, about how to empower yourself, which questions to ask, and how to even equip yourself with some homeopathic remedies that can help you heal better. Another thing to think about, of course, after Caesarean section is that you're going to be less mobile. It takes much longer to recover, so you need to prepare the support for afterwards. You can breastfeed the same, but you won't be able to handle your baby as easily and your own movements and functions. So do plan in advance. Pregnancy is the time for training, for preparing. And this is what needs to be reminded to all mothers, because with 1/3 of babies being born by cesarean, they might face this. I know that women who decide, I will never have a cesarean section, and they're the ones who are likely to never have it, never need it. But if you go with doubts and so on, then you probably will. So I'm available to answer your questions and your doubts through Facebook in the next couple of days. I do look at your comments and I try and address them. So feel free to contact me through Facebook. I think Instagram, I don't know if it's possible, but you can try. So it was a pleasure to talk to you about something like this, which is it's a passionate topic for me and on behalf of mothers and newborn babies. The next topic, which is in 2 weeks' time, will be on the placenta, the afterbirth, and what we can do with the placenta, what we should do, who it benefits, and how it can be used. So I look forward to sitting with you then again, and thank you for watching. It means a lot to me. So I'm going to end the video now. Okay? Have a good evening.